So I'm this is the first time that we've done 2 sessions back to back. I really appreciate you giving us of your time. It's hugely, phenomenally complimentary to me that we have people in the crowd who are staying for an extra hour. Reflection of you, of course, and I thank you for doing this today. Our last session, I was kind of rushing on purpose because there was a lot of your life story that I wanted to get out, a lot of the truisms that you hold. This morning you gave me a phenomenal opportunity to be one of the first to read your new book. And I'd like to spend the hour talking about the new book and how it actually will affect anybody in business. So I'm going to be using the example of real estate agents because we both are. As we go through this book to share how the book is not just a philosophy, but it's a way of living. And again, I thank you for your time. Thank you for your friendship. And I thank you for the years you invested in helping us get to a very beautiful stage in our lives. And I'm trying to guilt you into investing more in the future as well.
Well, I appreciate that opportunity.
So let's talk about the book. What's the name of the book?
The Third Law of Success.
And it's not a 100-page book.
No, it's just when it's finally bound, it'll be 30 to 40 pages.
Why so short?
It's what I call a consumable. The idea is that somebody could sit perhaps between flights in an airport and in one sitting and read the book.
And when you gave me that example, I thought I actually envisioned a college student or a business person who, before he gets on his plane, sees a $9.99, I don't know how much you're going to charge, $99.99 probably, book, buys it, literally reads it on the flight back in 30 minutes, and lands a completely different person than when he started. Is that what you're envisioning?
That's what I'm envisioning.
So, first law of success, is that how we should start?
Sure.
Okay. What is the first law of success?
It's the law of action.
Okay. What does that mean?
The law of action is based on the principle of cause and effect.
Okay.
What goes up must come down. We all know that phrase. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction in life. The law of action basically is saying that you get results based on your actions. You reap what you sow. You have to do the work. If you don't put action in, it's a difficult prospect to get the things that you want to occur.
Beautiful. So let's tie that into our business lives. You're a real estate agent making money as a realtor by commission, right? Mm-hmm. So your job is to sell real estate. Tell me about, we talked about in the last session what the standard prospecting model is. Let's not talk about the standard. Let's talk about the practical, real, Fred Wilson approach of action towards the results of selling real estate.
Yeah, as I've spoken with you before, it's a process that I stay in. So although my sales objective is one transaction a week or more, the thing I focus on is my process. And my process is a orchestration of certain behaviors, and those behaviors are the things that lead to business without all of the trappings and sort of gingerbread of all the other things agents do in the business. So the behaviors that I undertake are to talk to people and to ask questions and to make it my objective not to get anybody to work with me, but rather to find out who will work with me. Those are very different goals. So I'm not trying to capture and convert anybody. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. What I'm trying to find out is who's going to do what when, and hopefully with me, or at least with whom. And I make my day, a large portion of my day, about that process.
So I understand not convincing, not capturing. Many realtors who go to prospecting feel that they're begging for business. Do you feel like you're begging for business when you're having these conversations?
No, there's no element of that in it. First of all, the process leads to business. So begging wouldn't be a part of the process. Secondly, because the process is duplicable, it creates a pipeline. In other words, deal after deal after deal happens. So you know that if something doesn't work out, there's always more. So the sort of need or concern of having to prostrate yourself and be run over and take whatever you can get and beg for business is no longer legitimate.
So you're not begging, you're not trying to convince. What are you doing? Do you mind role playing? Before I ask you if you mind role playing, we did that a couple of times last time. Why is role playing important, and why is it important in your opinion?
I think role playing is important. It's important because it's about practicing and refining your skill set relative to the practice of production. It's a lot like a golfer going to the driving range. I mean, what they're doing is they're role playing the stroke for when they go out and the matches or the golf game is being counted or scored. So when they're under pressure, they have some familiarity. So role playing helps us to develop our skill set and refine it so that when we get into what I call live play, we have a better approach, a more comfortable approach. But I do think live play is very important too, and it's the thing that is not taught well in the real estate business from a coaching standpoint. What I like to do is I like to work with agents actually out in the field, actually out talking to people, actually live, and coaxing them to do the things that lead to business, because there can be a difference between dress rehearsal and live. So I think both are valuable.
And focusing on dress rehearsal, why do you find that people have such a blockage? They don't want to role play.
Well, again, this is a very broad question. It speaks to the issue of, are they clear about why they're in the business? Are they really clear about why they're in the business? Because if you're in the business truly to make money, and that is your truth, then you're naturally going to want to learn how to make money more often and easier. And role playing is one of the ways to do that. So I think serious agents are in fact interested in role playing. And I hate to say it, and it's a little bit of what I call squirm time, but as a coach, I'm often in this position. Someone who counts themselves as a serious agent who is not into role playing may not be that serious of an agent.
I love that term, squirm time. What does that mean?
Well, squirm time is when you're facing your truth and you don't like it.
So an example of that is?
Well, somebody who needs to get better at what they're doing, they want to make money, but they won't practice.
Okay, so let's go ahead and role play the correct way of getting to the truth, or what people refer to as prospecting. I'm going to throw a little bit of a curve at you and say you're not a realtor. Say you're a copy machine man or a car sale. You know what, let's pick car salesman. You're a car salesman. Go ahead and prospect me.
Okay, well, I want to set some ground rules first before we do the role play, because your use of the term prospecting needs to be broken down into parts, in my opinion. Prospecting is the act of trying to generate new business. Okay? But the way that act unfolds is not what I would call prospecting. Okay? It's what I would call discovery. Okay? So what you're trying to do when you're talking to people is discover who needs what when, and who's willing to work with whom when. That's what you're trying to do. You're not trying to find business in the sense of get people to work with you. You're trying to find out if they will work with you. So this is where the industry and the training in real estate and I maybe separate, because again, I have mentioned to you before, I don't teach conversion. I don't teach capture and convert. I'm not about convincing or chasing or trying to figure out a way to get people to work with me. What I'm trying to do is find out if they will work with me. And if they won't, that's fine too. Both work equally well for me. So I'm free where a lot of other people feel a pressure, and the people they're dealing with are feeling that pressure because they're trying to consummate a relationship, and that's not what I'm doing. I'm simply trying to find out if in fact they do want to work with me, if they are ready to do that, where they are in their life, and how change in their life is making them either ready or not to buy or sell real property. So it's more involved than just calling it prospecting.
So when you wake up in the morning, you don't say, I got to go out and find somebody who needs to buy a piece of a home that I can sell them and make my commission to make my mortgage.
Well, I don't say it just like that, but I think we're all in the business to make money, and we know that we make money by helping people to buy and sell property. So it's a natural thing to wake up in the morning and say, I want to go out and help somebody to buy a house today or get their home sold. That I think is a natural thing. But then how do you make that happen? What is the process? That's my specialty. That's the thing that I teach and that I practice.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's do it.
Okay.
Give me a real scenario of where you would practice your process.
Well, for me, because I've evolved to a certain level, I could be anywhere. I could be in an elevator, I could be at a coffee shop, I could be at a car dealer, I could be walking my dog, I could be formally out knocking on doors or going to businesses to talk.
Elevator's great.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and do that, please.
Okay, so we're on the elevator.
Yes.
Going up or down?
Your choice. Let's go up. It's a little bit nicer.
All right, I'm going up as well. What floor?
18.
18. Who's up there?
It's my office, actually.
Really, really, really. What's your office?
I have a beautiful view. I sell real estate. I really enjoy doing what I do.
Excellent, excellent. So you could help me if I was trying to find a property in the neighborhood?
Absolutely.
Got it, got it. How long have you been doing that?
8 years.
8 years. Excellent, excellent. Well, you know, it's funny because I happen to sell real estate too.
No way.
I do. And since we're both in the business, you'll totally get it when I say I wouldn't be worth my salt if I didn't tell you about the best deal in my area that there is today.
I'd love to hear about it.
And so we would go into that conversation about that property and obviously have a discussion about the merits and demerits of the property. And I would gauge what your level of interest is. So if you said to me, oh, gee, you're from the Palm Springs area, I'm out here in West LA, that property's too far away, I understand. But if you said to me, gosh, I've grown up going to the desert, my family's gone to the desert, I didn't know you could buy property for that price. Only 2 hours away from here? When can we see it? In other words, I'm simply trying to find out what direction you're going in your life relative to real estate, and if that's a direction I can go with you or not.
Starbucks.
Both work for me.
Wonderful. We're at Starbucks.
We're at Starbucks.
Actually, let's do Coffee Bean. We were at Starbucks in the last video.
Okay, the Coffee Bean, since we're doing, shouldn't it be Pete's?
Sure, let's go with Pete's.
I think I'm going to run out after that. There's a place in Spokane called the Bruise Brothers.
Sounds kind of scary.
I have family up there. What kind of drink did you get?
Iced latte.
Iced latte. Great, great. I'm a hot chocolate guy myself. I've never liked coffee. Have you drunk coffee your entire life?
No. When I was a kid, my mom would kind of force me to stay with milk, but as I matured, I got into it.
Got it, got it. So it's safe to say it's a habit?
Unfortunately, it's one I'm trying to break.
Got it. So you probably come here often?
I try and get away at least once a month.
Get away from coming here?
Yeah.
Meaning going to another coffee
Where
shop?
are we here? I thought we were doing La Quinta. So, yes, I try and get away from LA and go to La Quinta once a month. So
I see. Got it, got it.
set it up.
And so you come out to the desert from where?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Got it, got it. What is it you like about coming to the desert?
Just the weather, and I love the quietness.
Got it, got it. And how long have you lived in Los Angeles?
About 30 years now.
And do you love it living in Los Angeles?
I reserve the word love for family and friends, but I really do enjoy living in LA.
What is it that you like about it?
My family and friends are there.
Excellent, excellent. Are your family and friends with you here?
Family.
Family. Got it, got it. How long will you be staying?
The weekend.
Got it, got it. Well, you know, I happen to sell real estate. And so I make it my business to talk to people because really, it's not the real estate business, it's the people business. And so I always like to tell people about an incredible opportunity. And there is a duplex in La Quinta here that I think would cap at well over 10% after you carpet and paint and did a few things to it. And the asking price is only $250,000.
That sounds great, but a duplex is really not for us. We're not really looking to buy right now.
Got it. So I understand that a duplex wouldn't be of interest. What about a single family home that you could use as a little desert getaway place instead of paying for a hotel?
I understand you're in sales and I respect that, but we're really not in the market to buy right now.
I understand, I understand. Well, is there anything that I can answer for you about the desert? What you can do in the desert, things to do with your family?
Beautiful. So you got 2 no's and that was enough for you to just switch away?
Sure.
Beautiful.
No problem.
Can we do a supermarket?
It'll be the same thing.
What is it that you're doing, really?
What I'm doing is I'm having an interaction with a person. I'm not prospecting them. That's not what I'm doing. I'm having an interaction in which I'm paying attention to what's going on, and my questions are based on the things you say. You notice I always have another question based on what it was he said. And when I go through this process, I start to discover how change is happening in his life relative to real estate or not. Either way, both work for me. Because in my life, I've learned, and this is one of the things that the real estate industry can hold agents back, but the real estate industry is obsessed with the concept of rejection, of no, right? And to me, no is just an acronym. It's NO, next opportunity. It's not a negative. You have to be at no all the time to have the chance to discover where something's going to happen. So if you're having a problem with no, you're impeding your progress towards your next transaction. So I like to talk to people, and I like to find out if it's a no or a yes. Both work for me. And I might take 1 or 2 tries at it, but it's an interaction. It's casual. It's comfortable. It's not me trying to cram something down their throat or trying to get something from them. It's a process of discovery. I always say I don't teach capture and conversion. I teach discovery and identification. When you can do that, you can experience something I call sales freedom. You're free. There's no pressure. And they're free. There's no pressure on them. And the viscosity, the flow that creates is much greater than the classic prospector who's out there with a rack 'em, pack 'em, and stack 'em mentality and trying to get people to do something.
So if you're a developer looking for land, you would have conversations with people, and the statement would be, you know, I look to develop land. Do you know anybody who wants to sell a piece of land?
Potentially, but it wouldn't necessarily be so direct so initially. It might just be a casual conversation because, again, I'm just trying to have a conversation in which I discover what's happening in their lives relative to real estate. If I don't discover it, that's okay. If I do, that's okay. The process, though, is discovery. And the tactic is investigation. I ask the questions. I'm getting information, not giving it, but what does real estate teach? Showing property, listing presentation, ads, brochures.
Let's not go to the old system and stay with the new. Second law of success, please.
The second law of success is the law of attraction.
Okay. Do you mind sharing it with us?
Well, the law of attraction talks in terms of the principle of attention and experience. In other words, if Newton was to, who coined the phrase, what goes up must come down, he would say, I think, something like, focus on something attracts it back. All right, so when you get clear about what it is you want, you're effectively now transmitting a message, and not only are you transmitting it out into the world, but you're transmitting it deep into your consciousness. And so your world will start to align with that in some way. Now, the problem that can crop up with attraction is there's not a schedule on it. And so people can grow frustrated that the thing they're wanting to come into their life isn't coming. And that's not how it works. Attraction needs to be supported well by action. The two laws are really most effective when working together. In other words, you have to be clear about what it is you want, and then you have to be willing to do the work that supports that. When you do that, you create a much better momentum and synergy in your life. You go in a direction that is more reflective of what's most important to you. And so you start to capture, or that's not really the right word, you start to receive more of that in your life. And so the law of attraction is really about what you want, whereas the law of action is really about what you do. And when you can combine those two things, you create a more dynamic approach towards the process of achievement.
So in your life, in your personal life, setting goals of making X amount of money a year, and understanding that your average commission is Y, and understanding that you need V number of transactions to get to your X, is the goal settings or creation of the attraction, and then asking people and having conversations is the action you make to get that to happen?
Well, yes, there are levels.
Okay.
For example, for me, I want to be financially independent.
Okay.
That's the reason why I'm in real estate sales, is to become financially independent. Now, my definition of financially independent might be different than someone else's. But what I mean by financially independent is that I don't have to work to live. That's what I mean. So I have to do things in my business that actually make that happen, or it won't happen. All right? I have to add the work, and I have to add the work that will support that objective. So with that in mind, if I'm not doing a deal a week at a certain level of income, I'm not able to create the kind of income that supports my objective, which is financial independence. So you can put an exact number on it, which I think is constructive, but your number might be different than your number, might be different than my number. It's not about what's right or wrong, it's about what is your truth, which brings us to the core again of how the law of attraction works. You have to be authentic with yourself. It has to be something that you truly want. And where attraction falls down, as it's commonly taught, is it gets construed erroneously that it's about how bad you want something. And it's not. It's about how clear you want something, how clear you are about that. In other words, how clear you are edits out all the other distractions and opens the space in your life to go in the direction that's appropriate. If you're distracted, if you're pulled in many different ways, your clarity is less. So attraction isn't about how bad you want it or how hard you wish for it. It's about how clear you are, because when you're clear, you then start to take action in that space that opens up. So the two go together.
So it's going to be a little bit of squirm time for me because I have an issue with weight, but let's talk about exercise if we can in your life.
Yes.
There was a period in your life where you weren't exercising regularly, correct?
Well, not big long periods, because remember, my personal culture has been sports my whole life. Mm-hmm. And so for me, riding a bike or going for a jog or playing tennis or whatever was just how I rolled. So I haven't had long periods. But nevertheless, there are times where you maybe aren't in your peak shape. And when I say peak, I don't mean to win the Olympics. I just mean in terms of good living. Times when maybe there was a little, love handle there, or things weren't going at the level that I wanted at that time.
Let me ask the question a little bit differently. A realtor who comes to you and says, "I'm not making enough money," or somebody who's overweight and says, "I'm not losing the weight," mm-hmm. would your advice be the same for both? Yeah,
you have to get clear about what it is you truly want.
Okay, so let's take the person who's overweight.
Right.
What does that mean?
Well, there's the question of what's most important to them. Remember, one of the secrets to failure is trying to do everything. Okay? When would you do it? We have a limited amount of time. So that means, by definition, you have to choose what it is you're going to do in the time that you have available. And you can't do everything. So if you want to lose the weight and you're not losing the weight, it means other things are occupying that limited time. So they might be more important, and this is where squirm time comes in, because you may have to reckon and reconcile that the thing that was important to you, even though you don't like to talk about it, was something other than losing the weight.
So the comfort of the food at night.
Could be.
Or the comfort of staying in bed instead of going to exercise.
Could be, or it could be the comfort of a habit. The discomfort of breaking a habit. Avoiding that might be more important to you than losing the weight.
The discomfort of breaking a habit? Explain that a little bit more.
Well, habits are survival tools. The way we've evolved as people is in support of habitude. In other words, if we had to consciously orchestrate everything we did in our lives regularly, we would become catatonic. It's too much. And the process of habitude, that is having habits developed so that we didn't have to orchestrate everything and we could have some automatic behaviors, things that we did just repeatedly. Remember, a habit is a learned behavior that when done repeatedly becomes automatic. And it's something that we as people enjoy. It's, like I said, it's a survival tool. But remember, habits can be good and they can be bad. The process doesn't care. You can have a good habit, you can have a bad habit. It's the same process of habitude. And so what happens is making that change, breaking that habit, can get us out of our comfort zone, and that's painful emotionally, maybe even physically, and we tend to avoid that because as human beings we tend to take the course of least resistance in life because that's efficacious. That helps us to survive better. But it's not about survival, it's about quality of survival in our world that we live in. It's not about survival. You can survive. It's about how well you survive. And so you have to get clear. Is the comfort with the habit more important to you than losing the weight? Is the comfort of the food, the enjoyment of the food, more important than losing the weight? And oh, by the way, what is it that's driving you to lose the weight? Is it something your mother taught you? Is it something society teaches you? Is it bad health in which you want to be around to watch your children's grandchildren play sports? What is it? What is driving you? Do you not feel good when you're looking at yourself in the mirror? What is it? Because when you get in touch with what's important to you and why, you can then make a better comparison about the things you're going to do in the limited time you have.
Amazing. So let's tie that back to real estate, or to what's commonly referred to as prospecting. People are more comfortable in the habit of surviving instead of going for abundance, which would require them to break the habit and do something they're uncomfortable with until it becomes second nature.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Do I get a star?
You get 2 stars, 2 gold stars.
I'd like you to share a personal story with us, please. I know
Sure.
that when you used to have a habit, after a very, very long day, when you finally wound down and you had your own time, you used to.
Well, what I used to do was not go to bed. I used to stay up and I'd have a really late dessert. Maybe I'd watch sports on TV, and it became a habit because it only takes about 30 days to create a habit, according to the aficionados out there that study the phenomena of habit. And so I created a habit of staying up late. Because it was quiet. The kids were in bed, I'd been working a lot during the day, and I could kind of have my own space and my own time. The problem was I developed a habit of sleep deprivation. I was tired all the time. I wasn't getting enough rest. And it wasn't insomnia, because if I laid down, I would fall asleep. But I wouldn't go to bed. I'd stay up. And I found that if I pushed through a certain barrier around 10:30 or 11, then I'd be awake till 1 or 2, right? And then I still got to get up early in the morning. And because I was young enough, I could burn the candle at both ends, but after a while, it wore me down. And of course, it underwhelmed my ability to be my best. And so it was something that I decided I had to face and deal with.
And how did you face and deal with it?
Well, I got clear about what it was I wanted relative to that phenomenon in my life, relative to that habit. I had decided that I wanted to become financially independent. I wanted to enjoy the raising of my family, and I'll reverse that order. That I wanted to develop programs that would help people be their best, but I wasn't being my best. And so I had to decide if that was acceptable to me. And again, it's not about being perfect, but it is about being a walker. One of the things I like about my coaching practice as a real estate agent is I sell real estate. Most coaches don't. It's from the podium, it's theory, and that's great and that's wonderful, but I'm in the same trench real estate agents are. And so in my life, I look at it the same way. That's why I do my concordance. That's why I do some of the basic things I do, or admit it when I'm not, and then have that session with myself about getting clear.
Beautiful. One thing I find when I make calls or make interactions is that often I'll talk to 10 people, and out of the blue, quote unquote, I get to the office and there's a phone call from somebody I've been, quote unquote, searching for all day that I didn't talk to, didn't even think about, offering me exactly the opportunity or needing exactly the service I was giving. Does that happen to you often?
It does. If you're active in the business in ways that are directly related to creating business, the energy that's involved with that on a molecular level is a kind of a vibration or a frequency. It's a kind of energy. And that attracts like kinds of energy. So I'm not saying necessarily, because I would have no way to measure it, that person called because directly of the energy. But if you're out there stirring the pot, one thing leads to another, and it creates a kind of a synergy. And if you're not out there stirring the pot, doesn't mean somebody won't call you, but I think the frequency goes down. and I think your actively talking to people begets other conversations with people.
Beautiful. I'd love to go into the third law of success if you don't mind.
Sure.
I caution people out there that they should get the book when it's out, or they can call me and maybe I can get you a special favor and get you the pre-printed one. It's a little bit hard. I don't know if it's, well, why don't you just no preamble. Third law of success, please.
The third law of success is the law of acceleration.
Okay.
And the law of acceleration, well, let me put it this way. The law of action is the most well-known law.
Okay.
Pretty much everybody everywhere gets that what goes up must come down. You get results based on your actions. I don't really get any pushback on that. And most people are familiar with the law of attraction. There was a program a few years ago that was, really talking about the law of attraction. There is, though, a lot of misunderstanding about attraction, but it's popular. The law of acceleration is virtually unknown. However, there are many people who practice it intuitively, right? And the law of acceleration, in contrast to the law of action, which talks about what do I do, and the law of attraction that talks about what do I want, the law of acceleration talks about what do I see. And when I say what do I see, I mean perceive. In other words, the law of action is about activity, effort and activity. The law of attraction is about passion and purpose. And the law of acceleration, unlike those two, is about attitude and mindset, or mindset and attitude. So,
why is it called acceleration?
Well, it's called the law of acceleration because what it does is it causes benefit to accrue into your day, to come into your day immediately. And that happens because you learn to ask the question of opportunity in any situation. In other words, no matter what's going on, whatever happens, you train yourself, you develop the habit of asking, well, I wonder where the benefit, I wonder where the opportunity is in that. And you start translating the things that happen in your life from that standpoint. So for example, let's say I come home from a long day, and my last two conversations with clients were exploding escrows. They were falling apart. And one client at the end not only was upset, but he was a jerk in the process. So I walk in the door, right? And I'm carrying that vibe with me still, maybe, because I'm not perfect, and I'm tired, and I'm worked up. And I get into a discussion with my wife where I turn into a nitpicky jerk myself over some stuff that doesn't really matter, and we have a spat. All right? I try and train myself at some point when I wake up to what's going on to say, okay, wait a minute, Fred, where's the opportunity in this? Now, immediately, relative to my wife and the spat, I have the opportunity to say, okay, it's on me. It's my bad. I have the opportunity to approach her and defuse the situation. I have an opportunity to upgrade my relationship with my cherished wife. I have an opportunity to admit to myself my own weakness and challenge myself to turn it into a strength. All of these opportunities are latent. They're there. It's up to me to recognize them, but they're there. And so when you do that, you quickly accelerate success into your life because it's a different definition of what success is. With the law of acceleration, the definition of success is the experience of benefit. That's what the definition is. And you can think about it for a moment. When you're successful, what you're getting is the experience of benefit in some way. You interpret what that is, you decide, but you're accruing a benefit. Something's coming to you in some way. So think about it now. What is an opportunity but a possibility that is of benefit to you in some way? So when you start asking the question of opportunity in any situation, when you start interpreting circumstances and events, no matter what kind of curveball it was, from the standpoint of opportunity, you immediately translate it into a benefit and suddenly accelerate the experience of success into your moment. And that's why it's the law of acceleration, because it's immediate. The law of action is over time. The law of attraction is about the future. The law of acceleration is about the now. What you're doing now to experience success. And so it's a different facet of the achievement process, and I call it the achievement dynamic. When you take the law of action and you combine it with the law of attraction and the law of acceleration, you get what I call wow in your day, because you're working towards the things that are most important to you while translating the curveballs into benefit. And it's a very powerful process of achievement and a very life-changing experience.
Next time you get that question, why do you call it that? Just say, because I could. It'll save a lot of time and a lot of confusion.
Well, it seemed appropriate.
Let me ask you more specifically. Buying a car is usually not a fun experience. Do you mind sharing where the opportunity is in buying a car with a real-life example?
Well, again, it depends on the circumstances, if it's fun or not, I think. But I was helping my son Alec to buy his first car. He's out of school, moved to Austin, Texas, got a job away from where he lives, going to need a car. He was busing to school and things like that before. And he was a California resident, thinking he'd still be a California resident, so he's going to buy a car in California. So we go, I drive a Honda Pilot, an SUV. It's a good car. They don't break. There's my little commercial. So, we thought maybe he would get one too, get a Honda also. So I'm helping him to get this. There's a lease. He's got to go out of town. I'm going back and forth a little bit and talking to the insurance people, and we're trying to get things faxed. And I'm starting to get a little peeved that I'm doing all this stuff and he's over at his friends on the beach before he goes back to Austin, right? And then I said to myself, wait a minute, where's the opportunity in this situation? You sell real estate. You're going to the car dealer right now. Who's there? Well, people are there, right? All right, so I determined when I get there, I'm going to talk to them, and I'm going to start asking questions, and I'm going to get on my game, right? So I went from the salesman to the manager to the owner, found out that his daughter knows my son. They went to high school or were the same grade, right? Long story short, less than 30 days later, about 30 days later, we closed on a property that they bought, and the commission was worth more than the car. This is what I mean that opportunity is everywhere. We get ourselves into a place mentally where we have shut down. We are not open to the reality that opportunity is everywhere, that the way the world works is constant change, and because of constant change, we have this never-ending stream of possibilities, and when we get clear about what we want, we start to observe more of the possibilities as opportunities that come to bear on what it is we want. And remember, again, an opportunity is a possibility that's of benefit, and success, generically, is the experience of benefit. So when you're interpreting these curveballs and these scenarios from the standpoint of opportunity, you're accelerating benefit into your life right then, right that way, that day. And when you make it your way, when it becomes a habit, it is very empowering in your process of achievement.
Many people, when you go out to a trip, you're worried about the cost of the trip, the cost of the vacation, the time you're not going to be at work, and the loss of revenue. Any stories of a plane for you?
Sure. When the kids were little, we would go to our summer cabin for a month or so up in Washington State. And, you got to gather up the whole family. You got to pull away from the business. Going to be gone a month. That means you're going to really cut the spigot of the pipeline off. You have to be able to pay for everything. And my oldest son asked me, as we were in the waiting room for getting on the boarding area for the plane, is this trip expensive? He asked me. He was probably, 10 or 11. And I said, well, it's going to cost some money. And he said, well, how are you going to pay for it? And do we have the money? And I said, well, actually pay attention, because my intention is to pay for the entire trip while we're on vacation. And he said, well, how does that work? How are you going to do that? And I said, watch. So we had that little conversation. It was innocent. And now we're getting on the plane. And the way it works is my family is 5, 3 kids and the 2 parents. And it's 2 banks of 3 seats with an aisle down the middle, flying from Palm Springs to Seattle. And so Beth and Natalie and Cullen are over here, and Alec and I are window aisle, or in window center, and then someone else is going to have the aisle because he wanted to be near the window, right? And I was going to sort of be between him and the other person. And so this fellow comes in and he sits down, and Alec is sitting there, and I go like this, and I turn and I introduce myself to the fella, and I say, are you coming or going? And he says, well, what do you mean? I said, well, do you live in the desert or do you live in Seattle? He says, oh, I live in Seattle. Really? Well, what were you doing in the desert? It's the summer. It's hot down here. Oh, well, I was down here taking care of some business. Oh, really? What business you in? Well, the business I'm in is X, but the business I was talking about was a property that I have down here. Oh, really? Where's the property? Oh, it's in La Quinta. Oh, I happen to live in La Quinta. And so we talked about it, and it turns out that he bought an investment property right in my neighborhood. And so I said to him, well, you know, what if I told you about an even better deal than the one that you had bought? And he said, I would be all ears. Long story short, I ended up closing 3 transactions with the guy and made almost $30,000, right? And the trip only cost about $4,000 or $5,000. And Alec was able to watch that. And again, the opportunities are there. Opportunity, the question of opportunity isn't if it exists, it's do you recognize it? Are you open to it? Are you stimulating your access to it? And it's a process of paying attention and asking the question of opportunity and discovering what's going on. And so that's another example.
Asking the question of opportunity, what does that mean?
The question of opportunity, where's the opportunity? When this guy came in and sat down and I turned to say hello, in the back of my mind I'm saying, I wonder where the opportunity is here. And it might be in real estate, it might be in something else. For example, my son Cullen, when he and a friend were graduating from Stanford, the friend they were both looking for jobs essentially, and he wanted to talk to me at one point about opportunity. Cullen had told him about this program that I teach about the nature of opportunity. And so I had a chance to sit with this fella who was rooming with my son at that time and talk about this thing that we're talking about. And so he got an introduction to how opportunity works and asking the question of opportunity and being open. And so he got on a plane some weeks or months later and was flying, I think it was from San Francisco to New York, or no, it was St. Louis, I think, where his home is. And he was still job hunting. And he said, I consciously, when I got on the plane, thought, I wonder where the opportunity is, because he'd heard the story about the vacation. And he said a guy sat next to him, he engaged him in a conversation, and it turned out that not only was that guy in the industry that he wanted to go in and had gotten his degree in from Stanford, but the guy owned the company. The guy offered an interview to him, and they ended up hiring him, and he works for them to this day, sitting on the plane. And he called me and said, Mr. Wilson, it's so true, opportunity is everywhere. I was on the plane and the same thing happened to me. It never would have happened had I not opened up to it, had I not inquired of it, had I not been clear about what it was I wanted, and had I not been willing to try. And that's this combination of action, attraction, and acceleration. And it's a very dynamic process of achievement.
People hate going to the doctor. Any stories about that?
Well, I've definitely had real estate transactions happen in the waiting room at the doctor, or been speaking to the doctor and discovered a new client. So recently, in fact, I saw a billboard about a particular type of medicine. And so I called a doctor that had helped one of my family members in that trade, that particular kind of medicine, many years ago. But we had occasionally, for checkups, been in touch with this doctor. And I called him, I said, look, I'm looking at this billboard, is this true? And he said, well, tell me where it is and what does it say? And he leaned in right away. And I said, such and such, and he goes, oh, that's pretty tacky. He said, they shouldn't have that up there. And so I said to him, well, since we're on the phone, you know, I happen to know of a really great investment opportunity. How's your practice going? Are you looking for something to do with your money? And it turned out that he wasn't, but he has a property that 2 days later I listed for $2.5 million, right? All because I took the time to call him and have a conversation and vend opportunity and be open to the reality that the opportunities are there. The question isn't if they're there. The question is, am I open to them, and am I asking of them? So the question of opportunity is this asking, where's the opportunity in any situation? And you've had experiences in your own life where this has happened, I'm sure.
Thank God, very blessed. We had a horrific accident a couple of weeks ago where a drunk driver hit my wife, and our 4 kids were inside. And when I got the call, hey, I just got in an accident, the drunk driver hit me, and as you're driving over carefully, a little bit faster than you should be, I asked myself that question, where's the opportunity? And I found several very, very quickly just by asking the question. Immediately, I saw the opportunity of acknowledging God's existence and the miracle of having the 4 kids alive. Other opportunities is basically I got 4 kids again and a wife again, so brand new relationship, with all of them that's much better than it was. The car was pretty dinged up, and we were talking about getting a new car anyway, but you know, we have a lot of great things happening in our lives. We're building our home of the dreams in the near future and kind of saving money, but you know, this came up, and why not get a new car? So instead of fixing it and having a car that always cracks and creaks and all the memories of that car, and then we just went out and got a new car the next day, and that got me and my wife closer to being a family unit. It got me to feel more confidence, which is something I struggle with, to be able to do that for my family. And those were all opportunities that weren't there before asking the question of where is the opportunity. And this horrific experience, though probably in the memory of my kids and my wife forever, turned out to a beautiful blessing of many new things that came out of it.
And this is how the law of acceleration works, because in that moment, he experienced benefits with these opportunities that he was not tuned into before. And when you roll this way, you can see how it shapes your attitude and your approach and your process. And it's life-changing, because instead of everything being a drag, everything can be interesting and beneficial. And it's a choice. It's a choice that each of us has, and I've chosen in my life to operate that way, and chosen to make my life's work in this phase of my life to get this message out to people, because it's a moment changer, therefore it's a day changer, and if it's a day changer, it's a life changer, because the truth is, today is the unit of your lifetime. You only ever live when it's today. So goes today, day by day, so goes your lifetime. So if you can change today, you can change your life, and that's what I like about this message.
So let's go for a little bit of a commercial. Somebody's very interested in these ideas, wants to incorporate them in their lives, wants to learn more and incorporate it. How do they go about that?
Well, I have spent the last 15 or so years in the process of developing my programs and also teaching them. And we are now in what we'll call the beginnings of the publication phase. So we're building a new website. Actually, the website is live. It's called selfgovernment.com. But we have yet to build out all the pages and tabs. So if you want to be included as we release the third law of success, the next book, The Gift of Opportunity, or the CDs, The Untold Promise, or The Seminal Question, or be involved in some of our programs like Excellence in Action or Opportunity Now, which are live programs. If you go to selfgovernment.com, you can put in your name, email, and address, and then we'll get in touch with you. And of course, over the months, the site itself will be developed. So go to selfgovernment.com and plug in, and we'll get back in touch soon.
So very excited about the third law that's coming out in that book. After that's out, what's next?
The Gift of Opportunity is the next book.
And do you mind sharing that with us, please?
Not at all. The Gift of Opportunity is an in-depth book on the phenomena of opportunity in life. And so I take a look at how opportunity works from various different angles that help the light bulb to turn on with people relative to the phenomena. Because again, opportunity is everywhere, but we tend not to roll that way. We tend to have a scarcity mentality in life that says there's not enough to go around. I have to get my piece of the limited pie. And what I try and teach people is, instead of grabbing for your piece of a limited pie, I try and teach them how to bake more pie. And the way you do that is to open up to the reality that opportunity is there. And the way oftentimes people do that is they learn that it's true. And that's what the book shows. The book shows you how it's true, what the different facets and angles relative to opportunity are in terms of awareness and experience. And I'm quite certain it'll be my life's work.
Well, I'm quite certain that it'll only be a stepping stone of many more great things that you'll be doing. Thank you very much for sharing of your time. And we look forward to sharing many more good things with you in the future.
Super, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.